to wait for the record keeper. Good evening, once again. Welcome to the City of Paris Planning Commission meeting, April 16, 2025. A little chilly outside, isn't it? But we're glad to be here, and we're glad that you're able to show today. We're going to start by a roll call from our Commission Secretary.
Commissioner Menez,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Here.
Vice Chair Shively,
Here.
Chair Hammond.
Here. Thank you very much. I always say it would be funny if I said I wasn't here and I said, call the roll call, right? Okay. At this time, we move to item 3, Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Menez.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And we move on to item 5, Consent Calendar. Planning Commission minutes for the April 2nd, 2025 meeting. Were there any corrections, deletions, additions?
I saw none.
Okay, seeing none, we want to open up for public comment on the consent calendar. Any public comment, we're welcome to come to the rostrum at this time on this item. Seeing none, we close the public comment portion and move for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Commissioner Isaac Lopez,
I'll second.
seconded by Vice Chair Shively.
Commissioner Menez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively,
Yes.
Chair Hammond.
Yes.
With 5 yes and 0 no's, this motion is approved.
Thank you very much. This time we move on to public hearings. Item 6A, Major Modification 25-00003. Major Modification 25-00003, a proposal to consider a major modification to a previously approved development plan review, 19-00004, for the conversion of the parking lot for passenger vehicles into an 85-space parking lot for truck trailers on the east side of the 39.51-acre site, developed with an 804,803 square foot high-cube warehouse building, Ryder 2, located at 450 East Ryder Street at the northeast corner of Ryder Street and Redlands Avenue, within the light industrial zone of the Paris Valley Commerce Center Pacific Plan. Requested action is adopt Resolution 25-08, adopting an addendum to the final environmental impact report of the Ryder 2 and number 4 high-cube warehouses and Paris Valley Storm Drain Channel improvement, and approving major modification 25-00003 for the conversion of the parking lot for passenger vehicles into an 85-space parking lot for truck trailers on the east side of the 39.51-acre site. Based on the findings herein and subject to the conditions of approval, is there any ex parte communication, ad hoc committee meetings, or site visits?
I had an ad hoc meeting, I believe it was last week.
I also attended the ad hoc meeting.
I drive by the site daily.
Also drive by the site daily.
Yes, and I drove by the site back 2 days ago. Okay. And Mr. Rafael Garcia, we leave it in your hands.
Honorable members of the Planning Commission, good to be here before you tonight once again. As you indicated, the request before you tonight is for a major modification associated with a warehouse that actually previously came before the Planning Commission back in 2021. On June 16, 2021, the Planning Commission took in public testimony and had a public hearing for a warehouse and actually approved this specific project site by a vote of 3-0. Thereafter, the item was appealed, went before the City Council for consideration, and the City Council upheld the Planning Commission's decision to approve the project by a vote of 4-1. The site before you tonight is a warehousing facility that was approved back in 2021, and the request before you tonight specifically is limited to a parking lot modification that the applicant is looking to make in an attempt to accommodate a prospective tenant that they have currently interested on the site. So the request before you tonight is simply for a modification to a portion of the parking lot. The modification will involve the removal of vehicle parking spaces in order to accommodate 85 new trailer parking spaces. Now, the site in question is located on the northeast corner of Redlands Avenue and Ryder Street. The project site is surrounded by a wide variety of uses, including the Ryder 4 warehouse to the north, the Paris Valley storm drain channel to the east, the industrial use, as well as the Southern California Edison bunker substation to the south, and the Skechers distribution center to the west across Redlands. Now, since the approval, the site has been developed. So if you were to go out to the site today, the site's fully developed with parking, warehouse, a wide variety of landscaping. Again, the request before you tonight is to make a modification to the parking lot, which would result in a reduction in the number of parking spaces on site from 412 vehicle parking spaces to 206. With that in mind, even though they are reducing the number of vehicle parking spaces in order to accommodate the trailer parking spaces, they would still have a surplus in parking of approximately 23 parking spaces. As I indicated before, the purpose of this modification is to accommodate approximately 85 new trailer spaces, which would increase their total to 249 trailer parking spaces on the site. Now, the site is currently improved, and if you look at along the right-hand side of the site plan on the screen, the red demarcation shows the project area where they're proposing the modification to accommodate those trailer spaces. The green demarcation, the circles, shows gates that are going to help and continue to prevent any commingling between vehicle spaces and truck trailer spaces. And the demarcation on the top left portion of the site plan shows the access point. So that's where the truck traffic is going to be coming in from off of Redlands Avenue. Now, as part of the parking lot modification, there's also some enhancements to landscaping. The applicant is proposing some improvements, including a wide variety of trees to try to soften the appearance of the 14-foot high screen wall that's proposed along the eastern boundary of that parking lot area in an attempt to screen a lot of the truck trailer spaces that are going to be stored on this specific area. Now, the screen wall will also include some landscaping along the perimeter, and the purpose of that is to properly screen that entire area there. So if you look at this image, this shows what you would see along the east side if you were to look west from the site. So if you were to the east of the property and you were looking westward, you would see a wide variety of trees that would be screening the perimeter wall in an attempt to properly screen the trucks that are going to be behind it. Staff has conditioned the project to require 36-inch box eucalyptus trees in order to properly screen the site as well. Now, with all this in mind, the project request before you tonight is discretionary in nature. With that, it is subject to the California Environmental Quality Act, and in compliance with CEQA, the addendum to the final environmental impact report has been prepared for this project. All potential environmental impacts associated with the modification are within the envelope of impacts already evaluated back in 2021 as part of the certified final EIR. Additionally, technical studies for the specific environmental topic areas have been prepared to verify that the revised project that's before you tonight will not result in any new or increase or substantially different impacts other than those previously considered and addressed back in 2021. With that said, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 25-08, adopting an addendum to the final environmental impact report of the Rider 2 and Rider 4 High Cube Warehouse and Paris Valley Storm Drain Channel Improvement. As part of that, we are also recommending that the Planning Commission approve the major modification number 25-00003 for the conversion of the parking lot for passenger vehicles to 85 parking spaces for truck trailer storage along the east side of the 39.5-acre site, subject to the conditions of approval that are contained as part of the agenda item. That concludes the presentation. Staff is available to answer any questions that the members of the commission may have pertaining to this item. And it's just as a reminder, we do have a representative on behalf of the applicant here tonight, and they are respectfully requesting to make a brief presentation to the Planning Commission.
Thank you very much, sir. I think you anticipate that always. I'm gonna do that. If the applicant would like to come forward at this time, feel free to do. And just state your full name and spell your last name for us.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Brandon Dickens, last name Dickens. I'm with IDI Logistics that owns and developed this project, this property. IDI has quite a few properties in the city of Paris. We have a history here, and we couldn't be prouder to be here. And we're always trying to look for opportunities for outreach and other ways that we can be a good neighbor here in this city, this great city that we've seen grown quite a bit.
David, just raise the,
I'm going to raise that up.
you're tall, so.
Test it. There we go. Okay. The question you may have in looking at this major modification is why? Why are we proposing these changes if it was just approved just a few years ago? The building was completed almost 2 years ago now. It has been vacant since that time. We've had several users look at it and pass. In most cases, additional trailer storage has been requested in lieu of the large amount of auto parking. We did not come back and propose this on a speculative basis. We do, in this case, have a specific user in tow who's very interested in planting a flag here. Green Box Structures is the name of the group. They sell very sophisticated automated conveyor systems to other retailers, grocers for their distribution services. With the use here within this building, they will invest about $100 million into it. It would be a 15-year lease. So this is a long-term commitment they're making to be here. And with their occupancy, they will have approximately 275 jobs here that will be new to the city of Paris. A big difference in the EIR that was studied, the traffic that was anticipated assumed about 366 truck trips daily. Their needs, at least projected here in the short term, is significantly less than that, about 180. So it doesn't impact the truck route in any way, but we anticipate certainly less truck trips than what potentially could have been seen by other users. The impact here is just consolidated on the east side of the project, about 2.2 acres. As was pointed out, the auto parking is reduced from 307 to 206, or over 400 stalls to 206. And that is still above what is required for a building this size. We are more than happy to make whatever accommodations needed to provide for this parking area. The 14-foot screen wall was required. We're happy to provide that. It will you know, with what we have today currently with a tubular steel fence, you know, everything, all kinds of automotive activity, truck activity will be shielded from that, from the residences off in the distance. And then we are happy to accommodate any softening that wall as well with landscaping and the request for 36-inch eucalyptus. We're more than happy to provide that. So with that, happy to take any other questions you may have. We'll have a couple members of my team here. Our CEQA consultant, Nicole Morris with TMB, is here, as well as Tom Hayes, the landscape designer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right.
And at this time, are there any questions for staff and/or the applicant?
I have a quick question. I should know this because like I said, I drive by there each day, but I don't really look. Are eucalyptus trees currently a part of the landscape
No.
plan?
No,
Or
this,
that's existing?
yeah, this would be a new species that we'd introduce.
Would you be open to using a different large evergreen? I just have concerns about like flammability, water intensiveness of the eucalyptus, and they're typically more hassle than I think they're worth.
No, we are completely open to whatever the city and commissioners would like to see in this location.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But once, okay.
Do we have any pictures of what it would look like from the street? Because I know we're doing the 14-foot fence along the way, but does it come across from the building towards that corner, or is it just along?
Let me just, if we look at the site plan there, the 14-foot screen wall comes directly across
appropriate with the specific plan that's in place for this area. This process will also conclude in early June with a presentation to City Council, where we'll have the opportunity to present a pretty substantial modification in the 40s that is the first time the building really started to look like the structure that stands there today. The shed roof was added in front, and then the really iconic fin was added right around that time period as well. Through our research, one of the really interesting things that we were able to find is that the developers of the theater initially actually had produced this theater in other cities around the Inland Empire, which was a really surprising thing that a very similar theater we found in Newhall, which is now, I believe, their Elks Lodge. It's been modified a little bit over the years, but there's certainly a rich history, not just with this building, but with the area and what it provided for the different communities. In addition to looking at the history of the building, we're also looking at the more recent history, which is some seismic upgrades that were planned about a decade ago, as well as looking at the current state of the building and structural work that's going to need to be done to bring the building not just up to structural code, but also to the accessibility codes for today. We want the building to ultimately be a place where everyone can come and enjoy, and so getting the accessibility right is going to be a big part of the work that we do. And this is a workshop, so if at any point you want to ask a question, just throw it out there. It doesn't have to be a one-sided conversation. From the building, we've started to look at the surrounding area, not just for an understanding of the underlying specific plans and also the adjacent structures, but also to start to look at things like parking impact, traffic studies, and really the appropriateness, not just for the structure that's there, but the appropriateness for the city in general. And so we can come back to this diagram. I think everyone's quite familiar with the downtown promenade area, but for our team, understanding those adjacencies is very important. And then going to a broader scale, one of the biggest things that we've started to do is to look at data. We want data to really drive the decision-making for this process, really so we can give the city and the staff the best recommendations possible. And so what we've done is take a look at community theaters in a 50-mile radius of the city of Paris. And what we found is that the majority of theaters are around 570 seats. And what we're seeing is that in those communities, it's about 1 seat per 433 residents. And so, am I in trouble? Oh, I get in trouble a lot, so I have to ask. I get pointed at, and if she starts throwing things, please help me. So what we were able to find is that 1 seat per 433 residents for the city of Paris. For today, we would be looking at a theater of about 186 seats. So we're not saying that we want 186 seats for right now. What we want to do is plan for the future. Just like in the 1930s when the theater was built with just over 300 seats, we want to be looking at the appropriateness over time. And so we'll be looking at a series of scenarios between that 186 seats, 300 seats, up to 500 seats, give or take, which is those averages that are coming from the data we're seeing from other community theaters. And as a few sort of case studies, the ones that we found, I think, most similar to the project that we're taking on are the Temecula Theater that you see here. We actually visited with Sabrina and Crystal a week ago. This was a renovation in 2023 of a building that was built, I think, initially in the 1920s, and then they did the large-scale addition that was about 20,000 square feet in that 2005 addition. Excuse me, 1890. I can't read my own screen here. That one's too small, and this one's a little blurry. So the original building was built in 1890, and then they did the 20,000 square foot, 300-seat addition in 2005. And so this is a really good comp just because, not just because of the scale, but also because it gives us really good data about the revenue. They're generating about $5 million a year in gross receipts. And so we can start to extrapolate from that, not just on the design elements and things that are appropriate for a similar community, but also what the projections are going to be from a revenue standpoint. And then the other theater that we looked at, which was also renovated in 2023, was the Fontana Theater. So this was just under 12,000 square foot, 300-seat theater that was built for about $550 a square foot. We thought that this was an interesting comparison because in addition to performing arts, they're also doing dinner theater within the space. We haven't been able to find data on their gross receipts, but that's one of the things we're working on because understanding the economics is going to be a really important part of the recommendations we make to city staff.
So you say, if I can inject, so you say that some of these is $555 in 2008, and I believe the other slide was $880 square foot in 2015, was that for Temecula?
2005. I misread the
2005.
2023. That was the census number there on the population.
So what would you estimate renovation cost for a theater nowadays?
That's a loaded question because it depends on the extent of the renovation. As a part of our team, we've brought on a cost estimating company called Gardner and Theobald. They're an international team that is going to be utilizing data for similar projects, both restoration, renovation, and the large expansions. It is going to be similar in cost with the escalation that you would assume over a 20-year period. I don't know what that exact number is right now, and I hesitate to estimate it because there's a lot of things that will impact it between now and then. Tariffs is a big thing that we're looking at right now. A lot of our projects are carrying a 30% contingency just because we don't know what the cost of lumber is going to be in 6 months. But we'll have that data. The data will also include some contingency. That way we're able to give a rough estimate, a better than rough estimate on the different scenarios.
And then for the structural design, there was a design element that occurred 10 years ago. Do you think, after you looked at the building, do you think that seismic design holds true today, or is it going to still have to be upgraded more beyond that 10-year study that occurred back then?
We will need to do additional seismic retrofit. The scale of even the restoration project will require that we bring the building up to current codes, but it is not completely clear, in addition to that, it's not completely clear that that seismic upgrade was done per the plans. And so there's a little bit of work we need to do to make sure that the building's in good shape before people use it again.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question, and then we may jump in every now and then, so don't be. Is this building? Because I worked in LA, and we had a lot of historic buildings that we were very fearful to touch. So I'm familiar with LA, especially where you're at. Is this a National Historic Registry building at all, or if it is that taken into consideration before you even get started?
It is not on the National Register. It is on the local significant places list. And in the community outreach we've done, it's been very clear that people, while it's not on those registers, it is an important structure for the community. And you'll see as we get later in the presentation, a lot of the comments we received were about the preservation of that front-facing facade, especially the blue fin. I think it's a pretty iconic thing for the community. And so I think the preservation of that is something that we're going to be considering in all of the schemes. The things that occur behind that, I think it's just going to come down to a kind of a cost-benefit analysis. Sometimes renovations can end up costing more. And so it's going to be that balance of the preservation of the things that are important versus the things that maybe are easier to deal with in other ways.
If I could, sorry. May I jump in really quickly? I actually had a comment about that because looking at the photos, you can tell maybe a lot of it isn't necessarily structurally salvageable, but has it been mentioned or kind of like and a part of the discussion? Say we'll use the bluefin, for example, because it is the most iconic part of this build. If it comes down to it and you're in the middle of renovating and you find that that wood is not structurally sound or you just can't keep it. Has it been a part of the discussion that to continue, okay, I wrote it down. To reclaim that wood or just to make sure that at least, even if you have to completely renovate it, if you have to completely rebuild it, we can do something to retain the original materials. Thank you. That's the word that it was just bouncing around there and it didn't want to come out. But yes, thank you. Any way to reclaim the original materials in an instance where it's just not structurally sound or safe to simply refurbish. Has that been a part of the discussion?
Yes, and I think that you're very close to what is likely going to happen, which is we're going to salvage materials, but then structurally it's going to have to be largely new. It's in pretty bad condition. There's been a lot of water infiltration, some dry rot, and so the preservation can take on a lot of different meanings, but in my mind, the biggest thing is the preservation of that sort of iconic look. And there will have to be some boards replaced. There will have to be a lot of structure replaced. But I do think it is important that we salvage some of that history in some way. And so that's the creative challenge of this, is that how do you preserve the look of something, you preserve the iconic nature, as well as preserve some of the materiality. It's our job, I think, to find a way to keep some of the material. That way it's not just we're building the same thing back in the same place. That's my hope, that we find a way to preserve it.
That's what I was kind of afraid of, and so I just wanted to put it out there. I know that you've already been thinking about it, but just...
I actually appreciate you bringing it up, because it's a hard thing to communicate, that preservation sometimes is a lot of replacement, but it's about it's about the symbolic preservation sometimes more than it is about the
I agree.
materiality.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question as well. Some of the examples that you showed us from different movie theaters, they are like 2 to 3 times the size of our current theater as far as square footage. In regards to the expansion, is there a limit or like a feasible square footage amount to how much we could expand it to?
Right now, we haven't discussed any limitations of square footage. What we've been talking about is the appropriateness of the square footage. So for instance, the Temecula Theater, it's a roughly 300-seat theater, which is similar to the scale that you have now, but the building itself is 3 times bigger. And that's about the right ratio for a 300-seat theater. The support spaces that go along with the theater are typically bigger than the actual theater space. You have workshops, offices, rehearsal spaces, prop storage. There's honestly a lot of storage that goes along with a functional theater, as well as mechanical and electrical spaces. The challenge with the first scheme, just the straight preservation scheme, is how do we fit all of the necessary things in there while preserving the building and still have something that functions? What we don't want to have happen is you start to add in all the required restrooms, and all of a sudden half of the building is restrooms and you have 150 seats. And so that is really the struggle on option 1. Option 2, we're able to solve some of those challenges by building outside of the building footprint. And then the 3rd and 4th option is really an expansion into a more proper, as you'd imagine it, theater building, which with a fly space and the support structure that you would expect with a theater.
And with the 3rd option, there'll still be preservation of the current building?
That's correct. Okay. So the brief was restoration, small addition, big addition, new building. But through the community outreach that we've done, we know that blade sign especially is quite important to the community. So our position right now is we want to find a way to preserve that in some way in all 4 schemes. And so that's kind of how we're approaching it.
Got you. Thank you.
Yeah, we haven't put a lot of pen to paper just yet. So it's important to have these conversations first.
My vote is for preservation as much as possible. It is in our downtown area, so maintaining that integrity and the look of the downtown area is super important. This is where we do our yearly Christmas parade, and that is something that my daughters are in band. So as they're marching, they look for landmarks. This is one of the huge landmarks that they look forward to. It also provides shade. My second comment, I was a performer. My daughters are performers. Not all theaters are built the same when you're performing. I wanted to point you, I've been to all of these. I enjoy live music. I think acoustically, my favorite is the RCC Coyle School for the Arts. My daughters have both performed there. It has, within itself, multi-level. It has those high beams that carry the sound, project the sound back. They also have kind of like the behind the scenes. So there was a singer that came out of nowhere, it seemed like, because she was like kind of in the balcony area, like a faux second story on the sides. And I think those dressing rooms, rehearsal rooms, because you're switching out, are essential. I like the, it's not stadium seating, but the theater seating where it's scaled. I hate the flat because here you sit in front of, behind somebody tall, you see nothing. So I think trying to build that in, stage size. Our districts do a lot of kind of getting together and having highlights. We just did a winter performance one, or there's SCPA, WBA. They all have different organizations that are looking for places to have competitions that have good theaters. So I think this would be something where we can have that. And a school gym, a school theater is not necessarily built to host higher caliber things. So I think that was one of the things, and I know opera wasn't one of the things that were recommended, but we did, I think one of them was like live, yes. Having theater opportunities. So it's kind of the same setup because you want the sound to project. You don't have to sing at the top of your lungs. You want to be able to sing at a normal range, and the theater kind of carry the sound for you. So theater and music were the first two that were on there. So I'm already thinking acoustically, how are we going to make that happen for our performers? Because I have been on stages where the sound is dead. You can't really hear the person next to you, or it sounds muffled, and that projects. Third one is a film screening. So maybe building that in, like something, I'm thinking about the lighting. I'm thinking about staging areas. If you are doing full theater performances and things, that backstage area. And if we do expand, which I think we potentially may need to or could grow to, that way we can contract out to those organizations that have those theater competitions, have those music competitions. And they have warm-up areas because you always have a clinic. So you perform, that's part of your score, but they also have a space where they're warming up for the next band, but the band that just left is now doing a clinic, and it's like a blind read. So those multi-level uses during the day.
You hit on a lot of really important things there, and it really aligns with a lot of the community outreach that we've received thus far. And what my takeaway, so we received just under 130 responses from the community, and what this table, what the bar chart really tells me is that the design of this has to be very flexible. That theater and music and dance are very different acoustically. You're 100% right on that. And so with not just your AV system, with the projection system, but with the ability to modify the acoustics of the space, that's how you get to the ability to have those different types of performance. And so that really sets the design guideline in my mind of, all right, we're going to have clouds, they're going to have to be performative. This is how we adjust the acoustics in the space because they are different. And it seems to me that we're going to be best off if we have a space that can be used for a lot of different things, because that's also going to help with how you monetize it as a city. Conferences and lectures and things like that is also another big part of this. And those are completely different acoustically, but it's a big revenue source for a lot of these community theaters.
Agree. And, you know, something as simple because they have the side panels, they have the wood panels on top, and you adjust them, and all of a sudden it's like a whole different, no, it's super cool. And the lighting is like, you can work it so that like it can respond to the sounds when the band sounds loud, like it's super cool. Yeah, because I went to the Palm Springs Theater. My daughter wanted to see the Glenn Miller Orchestra. And I went to the Palm Springs Theater, and I was surprised. They had showings like Alfred Hitchcock nights. They had a bunch of things that happened there, but the band performed there, and it was beautiful. And they had like a little mezzanine area where they came out and they signed and sold stuff. They had a little bar area. There's a little classical corner. Have you been to that?
I excuse me, I have not been to a show there, but I know what you're talking about.
It's the Palm Springs. I forget what it's called, but it's a I think it's a performing arts center in Palm Springs. Yeah, they have like a little cafe, and then there's like some kind of. No, not on this one. They had like a little area that kind of, a scene from like the time where it was built. There was like a little baby grand piano. There was like painting on the walls and lighting and plants that were like typical of the area, which I think was a good way to maintain kind of that idea of its history.
Thank you. That was fantastic. We'll be bringing you on as a consultant, it sounds like. Me too.
Yeah, we're all gonna be jumping in and out, so you may want to take notes.
No, honestly, this conversation is great.
Okay,
It
good,
actually
good.
was even ahead of the slides a little bit. But I think we hit on a lot of the key points on the first question we asked, which was what type of events you want to see there and what that means for not just the diversity of types of events, but what we have to do from a design perspective. The community was also largely split on the types of performers that they want to see there, both professional, local, and also about access to local community groups and the schools. And so again, that's a very diverse group of people, and the requirements for an 8-year-old on stage are very different than an opera singer. I know no one liked opera on the list, but those singers can really. All right, we're going to have to amend 2 more votes for opera. But you have to be able to have the space work for elementary school kids coming in and also professional performers, which is, again, very different acoustically and from a stage set perspective and how you change things up. And then our third question was about the additional amenities, which is another big piece of this. And so with theaters like the Temecula Theater, one of their big comments that they gave to us when we walked a week ago was that they felt like they were really undersized on their concessions. So they're about a 300-seat theater, and they're operating all of that it's about a 10 by 8 concession stand, which is far too small for an event where you have 300 people that are all going there to get a soda at the intermission. And so the community really wanted the ability to have proper concessions, maybe a little cafe that tied to it. Another big one that came up was outdoor performance space. I think that parking lot adjacent to the theater has been used a lot in the past, and so people really like that idea of that activation. And so that's something we'll take into account as we're working on the design, how we can both affect not just the interior space, but also the space adjacent to it, because that's a way that we can really expand the footprint of the things we're doing, or also get more engagement and more people able to attend things. And then again, exhibition space and galleries, those types of things really tie into things like pre-function spaces. And so when we say a gallery, we're not saying, all right, we're going to have a museum now within the Performing Arts Building, but how we set up something like the pre-function gallery where people are coming into the space, that can also act like a gallery for historic artifacts. The Historic Society has a bunch of old film reels from previous iterations of the theater, so we thought that it might be cool to have those on display. And so really what we're trying to do is to take all this data, take your feedback, and then work that out into a design. So if anyone has any comments on this, I'm happy as well.
Okay. You just go down.
I did want to say that, I think I like all these ideas, but I think just having the theater renovated and used for these things, I think some of these other things will begin to build out within the downtown area. So not necessarily all together in one space, or you're responsible for an outdoor area and you're also responsible for a gallery and a gift shop and a lecture space. I feel like something like this and bringing in the community and partnerships, I think there's a lot of spaces within the downtown area where, there are a lot of restaurants that are right down the street, like really turning it into a walking downtown area where we have access to all these things. Most downtowns that I've been to in the smaller cities have like a little gallery. They have like a downtown area that has a picnic area sitting. I know Upland did a lot of work to theirs from when I lived there. So did Ontario. They have like a little area around the library and it's pretty open. So I think some of these things will come as a result of having something like this, where it doesn't all fall within the scope of the theater, but it'll trickle down.
Yeah, I think that if we view the work we're doing not as we're solving all of those things, it's really important. Because what we really need to be thinking about is that this project has the opportunity to be a catalyst
Yes.
for all of those things. And development always follows the arts. It happens
Yes.
at every city, at every scale. And so really the way we're thinking about this and when we're talking to staff about is that the project is the catalyst and that will trigger a lot of these other types of things people want to see in the downtown area. Again, you're probably going to be a consultant at some point.
I think
You're
we all
stealing
are.
all my
when you-
thunder, yeah.
I think we all are when you get through this. Did you have?
Yeah, I did. So you mentioned that there's a possibility of being outdoor performance. So is that like an amphitheater outdoors as well as the stage inside?
We haven't gone into any sort of conversation about design. Amphitheaters are fantastic. They also, the utility of them is something we have to consider. You know, sometimes just a really nice green park space can be more effective than an amphitheater that only really works in sort of a one-directional thing. So Los Angeles Historic Park is a good example of that. That park was designed really for large-scale events and performances in mind. And that's just the trees and the landscape is kind of flanked to the perimeter, and then it's just a big lawn. And that space gets used more than any other park in LA, other than, you know, hiking in Griffith Park. There's always activation, there's always art, there's always performance. And so I think something like, we'll certainly look at things like amphitheaters, but I think it's more about flexible and maximized utility with what we do outside.
Of course, something that's more versatile, basically.
Correct,
Okay, thank you.
I would,
I just wanted to go back really quickly. I know that we're working with a pretty tight space constraint, but especially with the hopefully being able to use that space that's directly adjacent to there to expand, I just want to make a case for retaining a lot of, I know right now the seating is 436, but that's with no storage in the building. But for keeping as much seating as possible, Paris is a very, very active community. When there's something that happens, we show up, people are there. And then I also want to make a case for, you know, I really think we hit on something with the music and the theater aspect. Paris also has a very active, like, backyard music scene. Don't ask me why I know that. We don't talk about those days. But I think this is a really great opportunity. We have a lot of, you know, local musicians who I'm sure would really make use of this. And I mean, just those, you know, backyard shindigs
Blink-182.
get a lot of people. There we go. Yeah. So we have, I don't know, I just want to make a case for as much seating. And then we also have, say we get, you know, some performers who are a little bit more than just, you know, the local high school. We have the Metrolink station is right there within walking distance. And I think that it would be really, we should really consider that and consider how close that is and the benefit that that will bring with foot traffic. So I just wanted to make a case for having a lot of seating because you cannot underestimate the turnout for Paris residents with any local event. We're really good at that.
I've noticed that so far.
Yeah.
Yes. Even in the community meeting from 2 weeks ago, it was really impressive the number of people that showed up in the afternoon, not in the evening. It was a lot of engagement. It was a lot of people that not just were curious about the project, but were really positive about the project, which is not what you hear a lot when you do community meetings. And so having that many people coming out and supporting at that early stage is really amazing. And really good feedback thus far, too.
we still got time, but we just
So I was just thinking to myself, like,
architect here, so
I was just thinking to myself.
Oh, architects are always trouble.
Yeah, I know. Just thinking, I mean, your study is more that has been done on City of Paris and the City of Paris occupants. Are you, so in order to be, we're looking at the theater that's 400, over 400 seats over a time period. But if we can, I think we need to utilize the local community and surrounding cities and like that to create additional draw. Because Temecula is 45 minutes away, an hour away. Riverside's, on a good day, 40 minutes away, on a good day. So I think it would be beneficial for the city of Paris to capture local community and surrounding cities in this, to be able to attract bigger events, for sure. And create more specialized seating arrangements or more flex space, to be able to be more beneficial for City of Paris plus the local community. And again, what Commissioner Jimenez was talking about acoustics, I think the acoustics need to have their own flex space, to be able to create the different type atmospheres and stuff like that. So I think that's very important as well. Some of the areas in the back of they need to support the performers and the concessions. So all those spaces need to tie in and work together and be as efficient as possible. I do see that the building itself, it's not historical, but it's significant for the community. And it may not be economical to save the entire building, but as we like to do in architecture, we'll just take off the front facade, save that, and change whatever in the back that needs to be done, and add on to it. I don't think it's a complete tear down. I'd hate to see that, as I'm sure the whole community would do the same thing. But I think, it bringing in, the 1930s and 1940s eras and the design and concepts to a more modern era design as for the new functions. So I think I'd like to definitely see something like that that kind of blends in the now and in the past.
Okay, give me a few minutes on this one, because I'm not going to take 2 minutes. It'll be more than that.
No problem.
Number one, let me go to my urban planning mindset. It's not nothing to do with USC. Let me start here. We need a sense of place, and that's what it's called in urban planning. We don't have a sense of place. McDonald's, I'm sorry, is not. Chick-fil-A is not. Okay, the Foster, that's not. A sense of place means this is where your city goes. So that's why everything you see in this sheet, with the exception of picnic seating, should be done now. I don't believe in waiting. That whole entire area could be done in such a way that you're going to have to expand, never be tearing it down is not even an option. Expansion is going to be necessary, but keeping the facade. The Fox Theater was a renovation. Now you have the Mark and maybe Fleming's coming in, all that in one sense of place. And a food court down the street, which nobody talks about today. Food court. You need offices, you need places for art galleries. That has to be done simultaneously with this. And I'm not talking economics now. I'm not talking about the idea. It was the Chief before it was the Paris. It was called the Chief. Okay, I have some history here. But since Paris took it over, it's beautiful, the neon, and it needs to be encapsulate that. But obviously, we had a library in Los Angeles like 100 years old, and the hysterical, I call it the hysterical society, because if you wanted doors, they wanted you to order doors from 1906. We told them to go fly a kite. But the city owned the building. They said, you're not touching the doors. You're not touching the windows. Well, how are we supposed to do renovation? So you have to have a compromise to that. You got to be realistic. It was 2000. You can't keep 1906 doors, okay? Well, so we didn't need that argument. We just do the insides or things you had to do to bring it up to code, ADA. But don't be crazy, But anyway, I go back to this. I go back to the idea that the sense of place has to be done. Obviously, there's some city-owned lots adjacent. I'd like to get rid of that other building that's to the east, but that's another story. But you're going to have to expand it to somewhere and yet maintain that theater atmosphere. You can't just have a theater, it'll be bankrupt. So if you just have the theater, it's not going to be enough. You want exhibits, art exhibits. I went to the Cheech Marin Museum downtown. Beautiful museum, you walk through it, you can interchange it all the time. Right there needs to be next to this. You're going to have musicians that are not necessarily so super, talented, but they may want to be in other places adjacent. The cafe, I think you had one called Cafe Central, with a long eating place, that needs to be there. You want to draw people not just one day, but throughout the week. Because if all you're going to do, and all these businesses down the street and restaurants, a lot of them are empty, you're going to have some offices. So I'm just talking economics now. Economics means location, location, location. So to draw crowds, you're going to have it more than one day, because nobody's going to do this for one day. You're going to have something that draws people throughout the week. Exhibits that are outdoor, maybe they have paintings and things like that. This is a mural city, some beautiful murals in this city. Things like that. But even just art exhibits, maybe outside, maybe inside, that could be adjacent. Offices for art people. Offices for people adjacent to it, and stage performance. If they can do stage performance, they need rehearsal places. They need other things. Conferences. Conferences bring money. And I'm not talking about big conferences, where you can have things that the school district wants to have a meeting next door. Someone else wants, the city of Paris wants to do something next door and adjacent to it, and yet it's not involving the theater. So now you get, and some of the great things you can put as examples too, and I'm looking at community center kind of thing, where it becomes a community thing. You've gone to the community, we're just representing the community, that's all we're doing. But we're not going contrary to anything. They say exhibition space, multi-purpose, everything here, with the exception to me, picnic seating outside. No. But cafes, bar, there's a reason why that's here, and it's the first thing we would have said. You got to have something. When I leave it, where do I go? There's a tire place, and I'm not going to the tire place across the street, am I? So you want to be able to have that sense of where even at 12 o'clock, I can go someplace after the theater, before the theater. All the Pasadena Playhouse, I'm just giving you some example, fantastic. Because you don't just walk out there. This is a whole sense. You go there early before it starts, and now you're eating, and now you go to the theater. Then you go afterwards. Yeah, yes. And so I think the idea is that it becomes a sense of place, the term from planning, and it becomes a sense, that's the downtown specific plan, makes it a specific thing that you go there, and that becomes the catalyst for all the other things in the area. Parking, we're going to have those discussions about parking, because if you have multifamily housing, if you have other things adjacent, that's another story, and that maybe have to be a part of that. Retail on the bottom feeds into the theater. This feeds into the retail. See, I'm thinking in a general sense. That is USC. So you have the general to the specific. Okay, general is the whole building and all that. Now you have the specifics. How do you get people in there through the week so they make money? Okay, there's no sense of doing this for one day. You're not going to make it. Okay, the theater got torn out in Paris, but it's a theater and nothing else to do. That theater concept of 70s, 80s, 90s doesn't work anymore. So the seating has changed. All that's changed. The theater mindset has to change. Lastly, one of the things I do like is the dinner theater concept. Now, this is before you guys were even involved. Originally, back 10, 15 years ago, the idea was a dinner theater. They didn't have the money because everybody was bankrupt then. But dinner theater was a concept back then, and they were looking for grants to get money, $10, $12 million, something like that. I remember the city manager. I remember the council people coming with that. They had the plans. They still may have the plans. But it was tough back then. But the idea was perfect, because it wasn't just a theater showing Charlie Chaplin movies, which is great, but you can't survive on that. So the idea, like you saw in this picture, some seats down there, the whole thing shouldn't be seats. But if you had that on front, and I'm not talking about the Hollywood Bowl, which is perfect. Oh my gosh. I'd love to have a Hollywood Bowl. But the idea, you have some seats, and maybe on occasion you could put seats, but you maybe have that, and then you have seats behind it. And from an architectural standpoint, I'm not sure you would have to grade it to where you have like you go down into a seating area. But it's just a thought, and I give a lot of thoughts. I'm being very specific to help Sabrina, who's sitting there writing diligently. But I'm giving ideas above and beyond just what you're doing. You guys are experts in here. And this is from a community standpoint. You have a diverse community, so you're able to have diverse activities. You can have a lot of different, it may be a Jamaican music festival, it may be from Mexico, you may have all kinds of stuff. They should be comfortable in going in there, and adjacent to it may be some education classrooms on art. So I just say, I take the different approach and say, make the whole thing develop. Don't just show the theater. If you have to expand the theater, open the wall and make it expand, put everything in there. Everything I'm talking about in there, and sense of place, and then you've got people going there and walking there and wanting to come from Hemet, Nuevo, Good Hope. They're all going to come to this central location. And you have Metrolink. Okay, and so you have a train station all within the area. So that's a lot to say, but I'm just getting it all out because you want ideas. These are ideas from residents, 35-year resident, yeah. 35, I remember 1990, forget it. Nothing over there. You wouldn't even want your dog in that area back then, okay? But the idea, it has evolved to where Paris now, with 80,000 people, it was 28 then, is much different. So I think what they're talking about here is important to incorporate, but I just say go for the whole shebang. Okay, give them everything. Show it expanded, show what could be there, show housing, show all that as a complex, as opposed to just, we're gonna redo the theater. That's it.
I'm happy to submit my ad services later this week for the expanded scope.
Okay.
I think that everything you're saying within the context of the building and the adjacent site are all things that we're looking at. That if you're going to do dinner theater, what does that mean for the infrastructure to serve 300 people all at once? And so the types of food service that go with it. And so those are all things that will be in those 4 different scenarios, 100%. We haven't expanded yet to look at how it could integrate to adjacent sites and housing. And right now, and I would love to take on more scope, always will. But right now, it's about that catalyst. It's about how can we get the most bang for the buck with this, and how can that be the vision for the future? The thing that I love most about the building that's there is that it was done in this really hopeful era. That it was done at a time where it says it's Art Deco. I don't think it's Art Deco. I think it's more unique than that. It's something, the shed behind aside, it is something that somebody said, we want to do something really unique for this community. And I think that's really amazing. And I want to bring that back because the vision at that time was that unique thing being that catalyst. We may have gone in other directions for a while, but I think going back to that vision, going back to that hopefulness, I think that's how we lead to all the things you're talking about, the impact on housing, the impact on that community area, all those things that can come with it. 100%.
Yeah, I think I was thinking more is right adjacent in that spot, those things.
100%.
Not down the street, there. Make it a plaza kind of thing. So it doesn't work unless you do these things. I'm just telling you right now. Unless you add on these things, it's going to have a financial nightmare. So if you can just do the theater and you rely on that alone, you're going to have a problem. I'm just being honest. So I think these other cities, like 210,000, we're not Fontana, okay? We're not Rancho Cucamonga. We don't have that, what is that, Victoria Gardens type of thing. We don't have, we were in Santa Rosa downtown. That was very nice, I have to admit. Santa Rosa's nice, the Charlie thing. Walk every street 11 o'clock at night, no problems. But there were unique type of businesses in there, and then the hotels do this. So I'm just saying, one location, I'm not going to cross the street, in that location that the city owns, otherwise it costs you a fortune, right? The city owns there to tie that into the building, and now you've got a whole entire concept. That's what I meant. So the other things that will happen down the street, that's another story. They'll come, when this makes money, they're going to come in. That's the way business, all of a sudden you see In and Out and the other ones coming because everything else started making money. So they start wanting to come in, they start wanting to do this because they see the population supporting it. So that's all I meant, is that the whole thing becomes a plaza as opposed to just one, focusing on one thing. That's pretty much what they're saying here. You know, get out exhibition space, not just in the theater, it may be adjacent to it. Restaurant, adjacent to it. So now you can see, just imagine seeing that whole thing built up, and now you've got a whole plaza there. That's what I meant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're already making me want to sit here and draw. I think that there's a lot to it, and I think that there a lot to what you're saying that is right and important that we consider. And even if it's starting to think about a phased approach or an all-at-once approach, it's about what this can bring and the potential of doing a project like this. And to Commissioner Menez's point about not just for the local backyard bands, there is a shortage of theater spaces of all sizes. And so if you get the right program directors and build the right partnerships, you will get more than just the backyard people. My wife and I, we routinely go out into the desert for, and I'm not talking about Coachella, but I mean, there's to Pomona, out to Pappy and Harriet's, Hemet's got the great little theater that they're doing there. And so if you get the right acts and they're advertised in the right way, and honestly, if you bring in the right people, they're doing the advertising for you. And so that's bringing in outside dollars. And so there is a ton of potential both locally but also regionally for something like this. And I really hope that in the next phases where we're talking to council, that the commission here tonight, you'll join in those conversations and help with this conversation, because that's really important, that aside from the quotes that I've written down, but that we're communicating this and seeing that there's a lot of vision and possibility here.
Yes, and if I may add, I know the Economic Development Department will be working on an RFP to solicit private partnerships to bring in those type of uses, mixed uses, as part of the downtown revitalization projects and the theater restoration project. Okay.
But I'm also happy to be hired to design all those other buildings. I just want to say that again for the record. Any other comments or questions?
Anything else, guys? Okay. I think I appreciate this schedule. I mean, this is nice. It's big enough we can actually read it. I don't need a microphone. I think a lot of things in here, too, because there's a lot of ideas. But there's one good thing, there's a lot of similar things. Maybe not exactly, but there's similar theaters that have been, I just use Hemet as an example, but there's a lot of things in the area around here. And I think they got it kicked off when they did the fashion show. They were probably surprised. I think it's the first time many people, I actually went and sat in the back. The seats were kind of...
A little rickety, yeah.
Yeah. Felt you had to have life insurance sitting in that seat. But the fashion show went fine. It was there, but it just showed that this is the historic thing. Even back then, we want to keep it.
Yeah.
And now it's just a matter of renovation, doing those things, and I think it's important. I think you got the right thing. I think you got the residents pretty much said what we said, but I think cafe, things like pretty much the order we would have said. Yeah, almost exactly. But you got to have these things because it has to meet that need that's not here now. And so, and something that's too outside the ordinary, outside the box. I mean, you go to theater, sit, and go home. But this is not go to theater, sit home. You may want to have dinner theater. You may have restaurant. You may want to before. You want afterwards. You want to walk in the community, down the streets. Other things are going to start picking up. And this is not the only place in the United States where this kind of concept goes. You start with that center core, and things start branching out. You know, and
Right.
and so buildings that would not get built will probably start getting built. And you're going to start wanting to see other things come in. But this needs to be that center sense of place, as you know about. And I think it's very important. I think we're going in the right direction. Hopefully we've given a lot of discussion and a lot of ideas. I don't know how you feel about the Art Deco part, but...
Like I said, I don't think it completely fits into the Art Deco category. It doesn't have that presence. It got some aspects of it, but it doesn't have the full onslaught of what Art Deco is. So
Earlier, you gave an example of Los Angeles Grand Performance Park for what could be the outside area. I think that's a good example of what we should look for the outdoor area, just because it's so inviting to a lot of different things. So if that's something you guys could base off of, I think that would be a good direction.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think originally they were going to put it over the freeway, and they thought better of it. Trust me, they were going to build it over the freeway that was adjacent, a large expanse with grass in it. That became an environmental issue, and I'm being nice about it, okay? And I've walked through that park, and it's okay. It's a little larger area than we would suspect here, but And I think they could have done a lot better with terms, fountains, things like that, but I understand why they didn't do that. But the idea is green space, things of that nature. And even if you had buildings adjacent to this, you could put green space on top. Climate control. See, so I'm thinking outside the box. You can even do things up on the roof. So,
Love it.
so, I'm not going to sing the song. Don't worry. But the concept is there's creativity. Maybe I should join you guys. Creativity is a thing, and I think we can be creative. And you can see we're just not your ordinary commission. We're going to come up with some ideas, and we're happy to work with you, whatever we're granted the ability to do. But I'm thankful for the staff that did come to us, and we have a few ideas. We are residents, and we cross the age category. I being the oldest, of course. Maybe you're the youngest. I'm not sure if he is. Isaac. He's on the phone. He must be the youngest.
He's fact checking everything I said.
Yeah. No, but we really appreciate it. And if you think of anything else, I can't. Okay, we pretty much, I think, gave you Sabrina quite a bit. And we appreciate it. And I've known her for a long time. I'm not going to say how long. And she was just a baby when she started, Yeah, right. Yeah, okay, thank you. But really appreciate. Thank you very much, sir. And we wish you the best. And since this is a business workshop, we don't really need to do much else. Thank you, staff. And we will close this out.
And thank you again for the opportunity to present. I am very easy to get a hold of. Just reach out to Sabrina if you have any ideas. They're all welcome, and it makes for a richer and better end result when we come together and we work as a team on these things. So please do share as we go through this.
I did want to add, there's a really cool place in LA where you have movies on, it's a rooftop, and they have like lighting. So I don't like dinner theater. I like to separate my dinner from, I don't like eating in the dark. So I'm not a fan of dinner theater, but I am a fan, like, if we utilize the space and build a second story and have that rooftop movie, and then maybe that could be that flexible seating where we can have a theater and dinner, and we can have different things like that. So maybe instead of just thinking of expanding out, adding for now that second floor and utilizing, have you been there? It's super cool, that place.
So I'm there every single day. Our office is next door,
Oh, so
and
you know exactly
we
what I'm
park in
talking
the
about.
garage that goes with. It's the outdoor. It's the rooftop theater at level.
Yes.
And so it's literally 100 feet from my office, and we park in the building. So the next time you're there, you can stop in and say hi.
I'll go visit you. Yeah. So,
Open invite anytime anyone wants to come visit.
thank you. So yes, utilizing and maximizing the space. I like Balboa Park because I saw that the the museum in San Diego?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
in Balboa
yeah,
Park, and
yeah.
they have that little outside amphitheater area, but people also use it for
Yeah,
picnics
yeah.
and walk and hang out.
Play
And
music and everything else.
They have like the little restaurant shops that also look like that area. And they have like the little cottages from different countries. So that's, when I saw this and I saw the feedback from the community, I was thinking like, Balboa Park.
Yeah, I think, and I think when they originally proposed things like dinner theaters, the idea that it's almost on the Hollywood Bowl concept. And
Yeah.
the Hollywood Bowl is super popular because of that. I sat down there, I don't know how I got the seat, and that's the biggest thing you could ever have. Thousands of people could barely scream because they had the dinner portion. But that's the Hollywood Bowl outdoors. She came up with an idea, if you put it on a roof type of thing and mix that, that's another concept. Now, the only thing is an engineering thing. Is it flat enough on there, or what would you have to do to get that? That's one of those design things, not for us, but that's.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah. But that's a good idea, and it's one of many ideas, so,
But I think the Hollywood Bowl example is a really important one because when that renovation happened, they didn't renovate the bowl. They changed some acoustics,
Yeah.
but what they did is they added all of that pre-function.
Yes.
Places for people to sit and have
Yes,
food, have
yes.
wine, more
Big
F&B
difference.
options. And so
Big difference.
it's essentially a park where you have the circulation to get into the bowl, which is,
That's the challenge.
it is nice when you go there to be able to grab some food
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're running late.
Oh,
so.
yeah. We had pizza and this, whoever was on the stage. We had a good time. It really was good. And still there was plenty of seating. But you can't do that inside here. But just the idea of the combination of the two, not everywhere, not all the time, but that thing on the roof may be something to consider.
Well, it's stolen space too, and I think that's the important thing is that you're building a roof. you're essentially building that square footage if you level it out.
Yeah.
And so those opportunities you have to look at because that's a way to expand the scope with, I'll say, minimal added cost because you're already building that structure.
Okay? Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Good input, guys. Good input. She's taking a lot of notes. She's gonna have a lot of notes. Yeah, 'Cause I can't, man. You can read mine. I can pretty tell you. We move on to item 9. Thank you, thank you. Commission members' announcements or reports.
I went to the opening day of the Raising Cane's right here on Nuevo. Yeah, I went in the evening. It was awesome. I love the design of the building. I love the inside, the outside. The outside seating was awesome. They have a lot of lighting and fans, so it's very comfortable for the people that are eating outside. A lot of people showed up the grand opening day. It looked like hundreds of people lined up for they're trying to get I think it's free canes for a year. The first 20 people that were there. And it was super packed. So I think I'm just excited for something like that, and happy for the community to have a Raising Cane's and looking forward to more projects to come. No further comments.
I was supposed to go to the Raising Cane's opening, and then I just completely forgot. And I have very strong FOMO because, as I was telling Commissioner Jimenez, I've never been to Raising Cane's, and I've heard very much about their little bread thing. I don't know, whatever. So I will be visiting soon. But I'm really glad that you had that experience. What I did remember to go to, and I had the privilege of attending, was a few weeks ago, the Paris Fun Run. Amazing. Again, insane turnout. I think it was even more than last year, and last year was a record. It was a great, really wonderful experience. I ran it, and I need to get something off my chest. I need to state this for the record. We're going to omit the fact that he was definitely pushing a stroller with his child in it and absolutely overtook me and destroyed me in the very last mile. But for the first 2 miles, I was ahead of City Councilman Malcolm Corona. And so I just need to get that off my chest. He absolutely destroyed me in the end. But the first 2 miles, I was pretty good. But yeah, it was a wonderful event as always, and I'm looking forward to next year already, because I think I've just incited a rivalry, and I need to see it to the end. Yeah. And that's all the announcements that I have.
Yeah, I believe the health fair was a very great success. It's just seeing how many people was there this year compared to last year. It's just grown exponentially to see that. So it's nice to see more and more people, more and more, I would say distributors, but out there to provide services to everybody and get some more information from that, from the county to independent people to food services. Everything was there, and it was good to see that. And then Raising Cane was quite amazing. I didn't really think they had that many employees running around. They were kind of like stepping on each other. There were that many, but I'm glad to see that they're here in City of Paris, and I wish them greatest success.
I had plans on Monday, so I couldn't go and I couldn't cancel my plans. So I also had FOMO because I was like, I want to be there. And then I was seeing the pictures, and it was a little bit worse. But, we go through with our commitments. I'm super, super excited about the meeting we had today with the Paris Theater. Ever since I moved to Paris, I've wanted that area redone. I wanted this particular theater up and running. It reminds me of the old town, small town movies and that feeling, especially around Christmas time, because we actually decorate that street and having things like that there. So this really makes me really happy, especially because I know we always say we're or town. We're a small town, even though we're a huge city, but we have a small town feel. So I think renovating this area and kind of starting that and maintaining that integrity of the area really is going to help us get that feeling. And I especially appreciate that there is recognition that we are a very involved community. There's the Paris Parade. I have visited a lot of Paris parades with the band. Our turnout for our parade and the way the parade is run and the way it's seamless compares to none. The only thing I would change is the bands area competition, just working more with the city and with the bands to find out what they need, because I feel like that area could use improvement. And I feel like past year, we lost some bands because of that. That's why there wasn't as many live performances, because a lot of them come for the competition. They want those points and they want to earn their scores. So I feel like that part is disconnected, or it's not as supported as it should have, and that's why we lost some bands. But just the turnout for our community is phenomenal. We have the fun run, even the Easter thing, the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. And I think one thing that sets us apart is that we really highlight our community. We have student performances, we have things that draw community and really make us proud to be part of such an amazing city.
Yeah, I won't prolong because I'm going to get to the director's comments. I think, the Live Well Paris has consistently been doing. I got a lot of information. I think I took more information this time in flyers than I ever have. I've been to a lot of these. But useful stuff, and there was a lot of variety of things there. It was very important to see. I think the band sounded like Carlos Santana up there. And then we get up there, it doesn't sound like I was in East LA. That's where I worked. So I said, wow, these guys are good, professional. So it gets better every year, and very diverse, and it was very good. Appreciate it. And I, too, this is probably one of the most exciting projects that we could be talking about is reviving the downtown. We have a Downtown Pacific plan that got an award. I know I went to it in Redlands. We got an award for the specific plan. I went with I think it was our current city manager. I went with her a lot of times to get awards. You wouldn't believe the awards I've gone to. This city is really well recognized, and that specific plan got an award. And so, we should be proud of it. Now we just have to fit the pieces in. This is the start. You go all out for this, no Mickey Mouse, no 10%. I say go all the way. Every last thing you can do, get a way to do it, because you really want to start there, and everything next to it and adjacent to it and around it is going to pick up. When they see that crowd's coming, no place to park. When they see those crowds coming, you're going to see the difference. And if it's designed well and it's structured well and you have multifaceted events and a variety of events, I think that makes a difference. So I think onward and upward, it's come a long way in the 30-some years. But, you've got to you have a vision, and it's a visionary thing. And so we make recommendations, and we'll see what happens to the next level. But, all we're asked to do is put in our best, and I think that's what we did tonight. And so encompass all these things, and thank you, staff, for bringing it to us. I would only like staff, before you even get into that, explain what that zone is. It's a promenade zone, or whatever you guys call it. Just briefly explain what that is, and not public space. So what is really the difference, since the theater is a promenade? Or what is that particular zone? Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the Paris Theater is not in a public space zone. Usually that zone is applied to governmental agencies like a city hall, library, post office, that type of use. This is more of a development on city-owned property. And the promenade is just to allow for mixed uses on those properties that are vacant right now, adjacent to the theater. The theater is also a promenade. It's more of a transit or a district within the downtown specific plan. But we have the bones in our downtown specific plan and the historic fabric to develop something magnificent and for not only the Paris community to enjoy, but all the communities close to us.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that, we turn it over to the planning manager reports and her information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate bringing the fact that the health fair was a success. I enjoyed it. It was a great turnout. And as Commissioner Menez indicated, I believe the turnout was better than last year. Some other events that I have noted here is Earth Day on April 22nd from 4:30 to 6:30 here at City Hall campus, and also the State of the City Address on May 1st at the Southern California Fair and Event Center Pavilion in the Paris Fairgrounds. For the May 7th Planning Commission meeting, we have 2 items. One of them is a proposal for 141 townhomes. And the second item is an amendment to the safety element of the general plan. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we say welcome back to our city attorney. Hey, really quiet tonight, right? Because we didn't disrupt things. And thank you to obviously Sylvia there, not just for everything else, but just thank you because she just should be applauded all the time. I mean, she puts up with us. That's one thing, but she really helps in ways that the public doesn't know. Really helped. Thank you very much, Sylvia. You get the check tomorrow. No, we did have ethics training, so no, you won't get the check tomorrow. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Engineer. See, really nice to you tonight, right? And with that, we have unless people want to say, adjournment. And anybody could be adjourned. I could be the person that puts it on record. If you want us to second it, you're fine. Put a name down. We're done. Thank you to the audience, and we appreciate it. We'll see you the next time. Enjoy this week.